Thank you for joining us for OPA Live, Office of Public Art, that is, live. I am Ann Rosenthal, and joining me today is Amara Geffen, an Emerita Professor of Art at Allegheny College and founder and director of Art and the Environment Initiative in Meadville, Pennsylvania, which, if you don't know, is about how far north of here?
90 minutes straight north on 79.
Okay, because you might want to go visit after this. She and I are also 2 of 4 co-editors for the forthcoming book titled Ecoart in Action, Activities, Case Studies, and Provocations for Classrooms and Communities, which will be published, or is in the process almost, of being published by New Village Press for release in January. And we will discuss the book in more detail at the end of the program here. So OPA Live is a series, from the Office of Public Art to create new methods of engaging with artists and other cultural producers in Pittsburgh and beyond. The intention of the series is to bring conversations among colleagues across the arts into your home and expand your view of how artists are contributing to communities. Please feel free to post your comments and questions, and we'll do our best to answer them in our short time frame, which is 30 minutes. So just to say a couple more things about Amara Geffen, our guest. She has received numerous awards for her collaborations with local community and state and local government agencies in northwestern PA. Her projects have engaged countless local residents and regional, national, and international artists, as well as scientists, environmental engineers, landscape architects, and hydrologists. So welcome, Amara. And to start with, I have got a loaded question for you. How do you define eco-art, or that's sort of short for ecological art, so eco-art, and how is it different from environmental art?
Well, ecological art, eco-art, generally is thought to take a systems approach and involves merging practices from within the realm of art, science, both the life sciences and the social sciences, and community. So you bring transdisciplinary teams together to address environmental, climate change-based, species-based issues within the natural and social environments. Environmental art, on the other hand, may not, when we get a little further in the program, Ann, as you know, we're going to share a Venn diagram, and there's realms within how we define eco-art in the book in which environmental art has a place. So there's similarities, there's similar initiatives and interests and pursuits, but it may not be transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary, and it may fall a little bit more firmly within what we think of as traditional art practices. But there is still a desire to call attention to celebrate, to bring awareness to the natural life worlds, and to get people thinking about what's happening and how we might, as a culture of humans, address that and adapt to those challenges.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if you've joined us just recently, just to let you know, I am Ann Rosenthal, and I'm here today with Amara Geffen, who is a eco-art and environmental art artist and community artist based in Meadville, Pennsylvania. So, Amara, would you like to show some slides while you're talking about how you would define your art practice, or would you like to?
Sure.
Yeah.
We can
Okay.
kind of move through those first two images
Okay.
fairly, yeah. And
Yeah.
then,
So just to let you all know that while I'm showing these images, you won't see me, but then you'll be able to see this much better. So, but you'll hear me hopefully. So here's the book that I just mentioned, soon to come out, which if you Google my name, Ann Rosenthal, not Google, if you go to Amazon and you either put in my name, Ann Rosenthal, or I suppose I haven't tried Amara, your name, it will take you to the book, even though it's not out until January. You can learn more about it there too. So, okay.
and this is just for the audience. This is the cover of the book, really beautiful cover.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So in the book, we talk, we take some time. So the book is a collection of activities, case studies, and provocations by members of the Ecoart network, which is a loose affiliation of professionals, artists, and scientists, and historians, and critics, etc. So it's not exclusively arts practitioners or artist practitioners who are concerned with the role that art can play in addressing community needs, particularly focused on the challenges of climate change or ecocide. There are 67 contributors to the book, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, as Ann mentioned. But this diagram, which is a Venn diagram that the co-editors for the book, which is Ann, myself, Chris Fremantle out of the UK, and Aviva Rahmani, who is based in New York City, and Vinyl Haven, Maine. So the four of us were the co-editors for this book, and we were trying to find a way to help folks who know nothing about eco art, and even people who do, understand how we in the network think about what this practice is all about. So this Venn diagram that you're looking at shows these three intertwining spheres. We talk about them in the book, in the introduction, as streams or fields of influence. And these streams and fields of influence merge and commingle to get to this notion of what eco art is. So you have art in all of its forms, visual, performative, painting, drawing, performance, installation, site-specific work, anything that you can think of that artists do. They bring those practices and merge them with these other fields, science. And science here could be the life sciences, what we think of as the hard sciences, and also the social sciences. So there's a concern for ecology of all systems, social systems as well as environmental systems. So community, as you'll see in my work and in the book, community is really about the community that you're working with. So it could be an elementary school community. It could be a federal agency. One of the projects I'll show you in a minute was done as a collaboration with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration. So these spheres of influence come together, or spheres of knowledge come together within eco art practice. And you can see in this blue area that there's a range. It isn't one sort of practice. And in my own practice, I move within that blue area depending on the needs of the community that I'm working with, the needs and the interests of that community. So Ann, I could definitely shift over to the I-79, the aerial view of that project, and give some information about it. Yeah, so in my practice, I might focus, as this project does, more in that realm on the left side of that Venn diagram, where art, in this case land art or earth art, is brought into collaboration with hydrologists, environmental engineers, the DOT and the Federal Highway System, or Federal Highway Administration. And in this project, because I have a decade-long collaboration with PennDOT, the local PennDOT, and you can learn about those projects on my own website. But in this case, we were asked when PennDOT was beginning to renew the bridge at the Meadville-Conneaut Lake interchange, if we had ideas that we could bring to the table for them. And we were, the Art and Environment assembled an interdisciplinary team. There were 2 other artists involved initially, a landscape architect, an environmental engineer, and hydrologists and folks from the Department of Environmental Protection as well. And we looked at how could we rethink the handling of stormwater through these cloverleafs, these infields along the Federal Highway. And why was this site an important site? You can see running between the north and south lanes of I-79, you can see a small stream, or hopefully you will notice it now. That's known as Van Horn Creek. And Van Horn Creek runs for a few miles and then towards French Creek. It runs longer than that. And there's all kinds of really interesting stories about Van Horn Creek. It was named after a man and a local man, and there's all kinds of stories about it. So we were trying to address some environmental issues in this site. And you could go to the next image. So here you see a detail of what we did. We created, using the old bridgeway, using the concrete from the old bridgeway, rock rubble that articulated check dams, a series of check dams and infiltration pools. And our intention was to slow down the flow of water through these infields, which was really contrary to the practices of the Federal Highway Administration, because their goal is to get that water out of there very quickly. So we determined that we needed to slow this water down, because in Van Horn Creek, as the water rushed through that site in high rain events, it was pushing out, it was flooding out natural species of fish and water creatures. It was flushing them out. So anyway, we created these check dams and we enhanced wetlands within this space. So this piece is a really good example of that left side of the Venn diagram in Ecoart practice. Another project that I worked on, which did that similar kind of thing in terms of remediating a site within a community and addressing a stormwater issue, also focused on engaging local communities, local youth in public art. So this is known as Shady Brook Park. It's at the headwater of a small stream named Mill Run that I've worked on for 25 plus years. And this particular park, nobody could use this park effectively after a rain event, because there were more than 19 acres of stormwater that were running from the trees that you see on the left side of the screen and flushing out right into Mill Run. Mill Run flows through the city of Meadville, sometimes naturalized, sometimes through man-made culverts, and then it merges with French Creek at the other side of the urban part of Meadville. So you could switch to the next slide, Ann. Oops, I forgot, we changed to this image. I thought we had an image to show that we basically, why don't you go back? And one of the things we did is where you're seeing that light post and the 2 trees, we created a retention pond. We made a bridge and a public trail. We worked with the youth in the long distance running team at the high school and junior high, which are adjacent to this park, to determine a path for them to use for track practices. And so the stormwater that was collected in this retention pond flowed under a bridge that students at the VOTEC carpentry program built for us. And then it went through a sand filter that we created before it made its way to the stream. So as with 79 project, we did retention and infiltration of groundwater to slow and to filter the water and slow the impacts on this local stream. So in this project, there were also 2 outhouses, compostable outhouses that were available and for visitors to the park, but they had been vandalized with graffiti, not productive graffiti. And so we worked with the students in the middle school and high school programs to come up with a variety of themes to create a series of murals to go on these outhouses. And that was done with community members as well as students from Allegheny College. Thanks, Ann. Some of my work falls within that realm, which brings together transdisciplinary teams, and some of it in other aspects of it, I work in consort with local communities as the lead artist, and I design murals and public sculpture. The piece you're looking at here is a life-size woolly mammoth that was developed through an NEA Our Town grant that I secured for the Conneaut Lake Borough. We did arts engagement events for over two summers and collected stories from local residents, which you'll see in a moment. I'm not ready to go to the next slide quite yet. Can you go back? Yeah. But you'll see in a moment how the words are integrated. Why woolly mammoths? This is an example of our getting involved in social ecology issues. The lake has a strong, long history, very, very interesting about questions about who owns the lake, who owns the land around the lake, and problematic stories related to colonialism and seizing lands from indigenous folks. Anyway, woolly mammoth bones were found in this lake, and when Conneaut Lake Borough approached me about doing a project, they wanted something that would celebrate the history, which is why I undertook to do life-size woolly mammoth. I'm not normally a sculptor who works with animal forms, but I work, as I said at the beginning, in response to what the community that I'm working with is interested in. So the day that we installed this sculpture, this is a 3,000-pound sculpture. It was fabricated in a small shop in Cambridge Springs over a 6-month period. And then it was delivered to Conneaut Lake on December 9th, 2016. And ironically, it was in the middle of a blizzard. You can learn more about this project on my website. There's videos of the fabrication process, which are really fun to watch. And there are videos of the installation. So if you go to the next slide, Ann, so here you can see some words. The words, the text, and the excerpts from stories are cut from stainless steel with a slight patina on them, and the rest of the sculpture is made using Corten steel. And it is a hollow form. Usually we think of mammoths as solid, weighty, and we think of public monuments as solid and weighty and dense and massive in form. And I was really intrigued in this project with creating a massive form that was open and airy and might speak to something of a sense of the memory, because these creatures don't live in this area. And as I mentioned, the ecology of why they were in this area is quite fascinating, has to do with the confluence of 3 different forests in this part of the country. So this is an example of a project in which I'm not really working with the ecological systems, but I am working with the social ecology and the social history of a site to make something that helps people begin to understand the history of where they are. There are excerpts of the history. There are excerpts of questions that the community asked, like who owns the land and who owns the water and why do those people get to own those things, which really should be within the commons because they are public space. So we could go to the next slide, Ann. And this is one of my most recent projects. This is a detail after the installation of this, and there's a really great video on my website. This piece was named by the community, was titled "Bloom Where You're Planted." It's a series of 4 very much larger than life. The ones on flowers, the ones on the far left side of the screen go up 30 feet. It was fabricated from sheet aluminum, a sign maker's material that has thin sheets of aluminum, flaxing, polycarbonate material. And this was the crew of community volunteers who helped me install this piece. We did the installation this September, but this project site is quite interesting. The gentleman on the far left next to me is Mark Weindorf, who is the executive director of the ARC of Crawford County. And they purchased an empty lot adjacent to this site that I'm helping the community sort out what to do with. It will become a community green space. That the intention of this site is to bring clients of the ARC, that is people with cognitive disabilities, together in safe activities that are designed specifically to create an inclusive community within Meadville proper. And in that project site, which this mural is adjacent to, the stream that I mentioned early on, Mill Run, flows through this site. It is completely culverted, and we will be working. We couldn't undertake a complete stream restoration project because of the desire of the ARC and the city of Meadville to have a green space in downtown Meadville. So that was let go of, but there will be some daylighting that we have planned for this. We have support for this project from the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts Creative Communities Initiative. Meadville was one of the first 4 communities to receive funding for that, and also through the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. And we hope to finalize our design and build the site out in late 2022 or in 2023. We're still working those details out. So in a way, I wish I could go back to the Venn diagram for a minute, and maybe we can leave that up while we talk a little bit more about the book. I think this is, go ahead.
I would like to ask you a couple questions, Amara.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So obviously, all your work, whether it's more eco art or it's environmental art, it's very collaborative. So could you talk for just a minute about, you obviously really enjoy doing that, and I think for all of us who've collaborated, it can be frustrating at times. So how do you make it joyful and navigate the hard parts?
By listening carefully to everyone, making every voice count, and then trusting my expertise and experience to respond fairly and honorably, but also to use my knowledge as an artist and a public artist, a community-based artist, an ecological artist, to, when needed, make the final decisions if that becomes necessary. But in the mural, that one image of the mural, for example, we hosted arts engagement events during the second Saturday markets and had tables where children and their parents could draw pictures. And we looked at the imagery that we got, and then we worked from that, right? So it isn't, I don't really find it that difficult to make the collaboration joyful, because most of the work, the scale of it is such that I have tremendous gratitude for the people that collaborate with me. And it's a truly reciprocal process, which is what makes it work. I get to meet all kinds of people. They get to learn. I mean, some of the folks that I've collaborated with are now trying to implement projects of their own, working in that direction. And that's, you know, as an educator, that's always been a really important part of what I do, educating the next generation.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Who, you know.
yeah. Speaking of that, could you just say uh, a few words about people, artists or students who want to go in this direction with their artwork? How would you advise them for getting started?
Become an interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary thinker first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Connect with some of the artists, maybe even those represented in the book or those who are members of the Ecoart network, and people can search who those folks are on our website, ecoartnetwork.org. Find out who the practitioners are and maybe reach out for opportunities to volunteer with those folks, or find the artists in your own local community who may be doing this. And if there aren't people doing this work in your local community, look for an organization like the Office of Public Art and ask for their assistance. They can help you maybe sort through, and connect with your DOTs and your departments of your local departments of environmental protection and conservation and natural resource. If you live near a college or a university, reach out to folks there. Reach out to any of us, and we'll be happy to give some advice, and buy the book because you're going to find all kinds of wonderful examples and resources of actually how to do this book. The book is, or how to do this work. The book really is a field guide to eco art practice. And that practice, again, is not limited. It is a much broader field than some folks might think, right? I think the core tenets are that you work with community, you're thinking about ecology, whether that's social ecology or environmental ecology, and you're bringing art to bear into this. That blue space, I mean, the central part of that blue space might be a sweet spot in eco art practice, but different communities and different sites call for different solutions. And that's why you have that, you have a much broader area that you can work within. So become knowledgeable in community practice, understand the aspects of science that need to be brought to bear on the work that you're doing, and have a really solid grounding as an artist, so that what you produce, no matter what form it takes, is of the highest caliber that you can manage.
Yeah. Great points, Amara. So we're almost out of time here. One thing I wanted to mention is people can go and see these projects in Meadville, can't they? There's a trail or something you can walk, and can you
There
get
is
a tour?
There is, and you can find on my website, there is a section under the public art portal on my website. There is something called Meadville's Urban Art Trail, and it will show you the projects and lead you through it, from getting off the highway to coming into Meadville and seeing the Signs and Flowers and the Read Between the Fence, which are two projects that were done over a 10-year period with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, in which we recycled and repurposed old road signs to create two different public sculptures. Roadside interventions is what I think of them, that very much also reflect aspects of my own practice as an individual artist, and then also the voice of the communities in which I work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is there any final one or two things you'd just like to say in closing here?
Well, I would like to say to our listeners that you also are a very significant artist within this field, and people can check.
Uh-oh, I don't know why, Amara, your sound cut out. You can't hear me either? Oh dear. Okay, I I don't know why. Maybe that is because we're out of time. But hoping that maybe some of you can hear me. I would just like to, in closing here, thank Amara Geffen and all of you who joined us. We hope you enjoyed it. And next up is next month, Brenda Smith of Upstream Pittsburgh, formerly in IMA Run Association, and speaking with guest Susan Haw of the Bellwind Conservancy in Minnesota. And they will be discussing ecosystem restoration and environmental threats as avenues for public engagement. And that will be Tuesday, July 20th, starting at noon. And thank you to the Office of Public Art for giving us the opportunity to talk about Ecoart, ecological art, our forthcoming book, and Amara's incredible work over many decades. And if you missed this or missed part of it or would like to see it again, it will be on the Office of Public Art live TV. And there's previous episodes in this series that you'll also be able to see. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you soon, hopefully. Yes, in one venue or one context or another in the community. All right. Thank you. And thanks, Amara.